Okay, folks, Dear Evan Hansen is the talk of the weekend. I am hearing a lot of people talking about whether they like it or not, so I'm gonna talk some spoilers about the movie. Fair warning though, I am gonna be comparing this movie to the show that it's based on. So spoiler alert, if you have not seen the movie, I suggest you watch it before watching this video, unless you don't care. And also spoiler alert for the show as well, since I will be talking about things that happen in the show that don't necessarily happen in this movie. So again, unless you don't care, I'd steer clear of this video. Alright, you've been warned, so now let's talk about Dear Evan Hansen, we've been way too out of touch. So the movie starts out pretty much exactly like the show does. I'm talking the very beginning here. It's Evan Hansen writing a letter to himself as was assigned to him by his therapist. And it's, Dear Evan Hansen, today's gonna be a good day and here's why. Because all you have to do is be yourself, but a better version of yourself, more approachable, but not too approachable, just be just right. Now, in the show, he stutters a lot, and it's played up for comedic effect. It's actually pretty funny. I mean, he stutters a lot in this movie as well. But in the show, it's straight up like, gotta just be yourself. He's talking really fast and high-pitched. In the movie, though, it's played up for more dramatic effect, but I laughed anyway because I remember that scene being funny in the show, so I laughed. But then we get to the movie's opening number, Waving Through a Window. Now, in the show, you're gonna hear me say that a lot in this video, in the show. But in the show, the very first song is Does Anybody Have a Map? Which is sung by the two moms in the show, Evan's mother Heidi and Connor and Zoe's mother Cynthia. Basically, the song is about how hard it is to navigate life as a mother and raising teenage kids. I was talking with my brother about this, my brother who loves Broadway and he loves this show to death. And he actually said that he wasn't surprised that they omitted this song from the movie because it probably would have been difficult to translate to the big screen. Since, it takes place in two different houses, but the moms are singing together. Yeah, how would they do that exactly? So alright, instead of that song, we have Waving Through a Window being the opening number. Which does make sense, honestly, because the opening number is really supposed to introduce the main concept and premise and characters of the show. And honestly, I think Waving Through a Window does a better job at that than Does Anybody Have a Map? Waving Through a Window, I call it the anthem of social anxiety because that is what this song is. This song perfectly captures what social anxiety feels like. I've learned to slam on the brake before I even turn the key. On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? Cause I'm tapping on the glass. And Ben Platt, of course, sings the song very well. I already gave my thoughts on the whole he looks older than he should be thing, so I'm not gonna touch on that here. I'm just gonna move right along. Of course, fans of the show recognize those marching band Easter eggs. After Waving Through a Window wraps up, Evan and Jared are talking in the gym, and the marching band is playing these songs. They play two songs that were omitted from the movie. The first one is Good For You, which is a song that comes way later, like in Act 2. And then the second song you hear them play is Does Anybody Have a Map? Which is funny. I was like, oh, there it is. So alright, at least it was good to hear those songs in this movie. The filmmakers knew that those songs would be missed by hardcore fans, so hey, let's throw them into the movie. Let's have the marching band play them. Alright, cool. And part of the conversation that Evan and Jared have, Jared's like, oh yeah, while I was at camp, I hooked up with this Brazilian supermodel dude. I was like, oh okay, they made Jared gay. I'm pretty sure that's a change from the show. And I think it's because Nick Dodani, the actor who plays Jared, he's gay in real life. So alright, representation. Awesome. Going to the scene where Connor takes the note from Evan after he awkwardly signs his cast. I remember in the show, when Connor takes the note, he pushes him to the ground, yeah, but when he pushes him, he says, you're a fucking freak, like he says that out loud. He yells at him. He calls Evan a fucking freak. And there in the show, you're like, holy shit, yeah, Connor is a pretty messed up dude. I do wish that they had kept that in this movie, because that would let you know for sure that Connor, in real life, he was not a great person, or at least he was pretty messed up. They could have left that F-bomb in there. A PG-13 movie is allowed to have one F-bomb. I think it would have worked better there than it did in If I Could Tell Her. Fast forwarding to the next song though. So now at this point, Evan is at the Murphy's house, and they're like, tell us about our boy. And so we get to the song For Forever, which this song, alright, it's sweet, but it's pretty slow. I'm not too attached to this song. All we see is sky for forever. Basically, Evan is feeding the Murphys a lie. This bullshit story about how he and Connor went to the Autumn Smile apple orchard, and they climbed up a tree, but then the branch gave way. Hence, that's how Evan broke his arm. Except not really. We'll get to the real story behind Evan's broken arm a little later on. But for now, the Murphys totally buy it. They're like, thank you, Evan Hansen. And so now Evan's like, alright, I guess I gotta go with this lie now. Hey, Jared, come help me out. Let's make some fake emails between me and Connor. To show that we were actually friends. And yeah, here's where we get to my favorite song in Dear Evan Hansen. Cause all that it takes is a little reinvention. It's easy to change if you give it your attention. All you gotta do is just believe you can be who you wanna be. Sincerely me. me. My sister's hot. What the hell? My bad. I love this song. It's so much fun. And I think in the movie they pull it off really well. Yeah, it's Evan and Connor sending fake emails to each other. And you see them, they're on go-karts, they're playing Dance Dance Revolution. Jared comes in at the very end for that 3-part harmony. It's great. The only thing though is that they actually do skip a line in that song from the show. The part where it's like, our friendship goes beyond your average kind of bond, but not because they're gay. And then in the show it goes, we're close, but not that way. The only man that I love is my dad. And then it goes, well, anyway, you're getting better every day. In the movie, it skips that part. It goes, well, not because they're gay. No, not because, well, anyway, you're getting better. It skips that whole part about the only man that I love is my dad. I'm assuming that's because Connor doesn't have a dad in this movie. He has a stepdad. So saying the only man that I love is my dad would sound kind of out of place and weird. So alright, I guess that's fair enough. But even though they skipped over that line, the song still remains my favorite on the soundtrack. Because again, it's the only real fun and upbeat song in the entire thing. Although the next song is really good too. The next song is called Requiem, and this song tells us about Zoe's perspective on this whole thing, which I actually think is really good, really interesting. Because Zoe only ever saw Connor as a monster, the messed up kid that he actually was. The scene where they're at the table and Zoe's like, there were no good things, there are no good memories I have of my older brother. So this song Requiem is all about that. She's like, why should I grieve for my brother? He was a dick, he was an asshole, and I did not like him. So I'm not gonna grieve here. I don't know why everyone else here is grieving. They're like, making up their own stories to cope with it. Yeah, Zoe still needs some convincing. Same thing with the stepdad, Larry. He doesn't understand why Connor killed himself either. I gave you the world, you threw it away. And then the harmonies all come in at the end. It's really good. The next song though is another one of my favorites in the show. It's If I Could Tell Her. I love this bit. I'm gonna talk for a while about this one. So Evan's talking with Zoe, right? And like I said, Zoe still needs some convincing that Connor was not that bad of a person. She still needs to be convinced of this lie. First off, the conversation they have beforehand about how, oh, my mom was a Buddhist last year. That's what she does. Every year she's into something different. Like once it was The Secret. I was like, holy shit, that's right out of the show. Yeah, like almost word for word, like verbatim. That is the exact same dialogue Zoe says in the show. And then how Evan's like, oh, I'm sorry. And Zoe's like, you don't have to keep apologizing. Evan's like, okay. And then Zoe's like, you want to say sorry right now, don't you? Yes, I do, very much. I love that. Again, that's right out of the show. Play it up for laughs. It's funny. And then they start talking about Connor. Evan's like, oh yeah, Connor noticed that when you play a solo in jazz band, you have the smile. You probably don't even know you're doing this, but you have this smile that's like, you know a secret, but you can't tell anyone, but your smile is like you're letting the whole world in on the secret. I was like, holy shit, I'm watching the stage show just on a screen. I love that. Because that's a very sweet scene. Again, it's all lies, it's all bullshit, but you can't help but be like, oh, that's Evan's thoughts right there. And that's really the whole concept of this song, If I Could Tell Her. Evan's telling Zoe that this is what Connor thought of her while he was still alive. Like all these great, wonderful things, but in reality, that's what Evan secretly thought of her because he has a crush on her. Sure, yes, it's all lies, but it's really sweet. What can you say? There's a part of the song where they actually skip over this in the movie, but in the show, he goes, he thought you looked really pretty, it looked pretty cool when you put indigo streaks in your hair. Which again, in the show, that's pretty funny. But let's face it, in real life, she would have noticed that Evan just called her really pretty. It's like almost a cartoonish sort of thing. So alright, they just skip over that in this movie. He just goes, he thought it looked pretty cool when you put indigo streaks, and then he goes on. Alright, I get that change. I'm fine with it. And then towards the end of the song where he goes, I love you, I love you. At that point, you might be tempted to be like, oh my god, high school romance. Yeah, so serious. He thinks he's in love. Blech. And yeah, you know what? That is true. High school romance, it's not really... It's beginner's romance. They think they're in love, but they're usually just not. But that doesn't change the fact that that is what they think at the time. So yeah, the lyrics would be, I love you, because that is what Evan thinks. He thinks he is in love with Zoe. So alright, the lyrics are really good there. So props to Pasek and Paul for that, the songwriters of the show. And so after this song wraps up, again, there is one thing from the show that I was looking forward to seeing in this movie, but it just didn't happen. In the show, after If I Could Tell Her wraps up, Evan actually tries to kiss Zoe. He does this like awkward kiss, and Zoe's like, what are you doing? And Evan's like, oh shit, I fucked up. Yeah, there's like this awkward moment. And then it cuts to Evan FaceTiming with Jared, and the first thing you hear is Jared going, you what? Yeah, like in this really funny kind of way. It's hilarious. Jared goes, I can't believe you tried to kiss Zoe Murphy on her brother's bed after he died. I love that. It's so funny. I was looking forward to hearing that in this movie, and it just didn't happen. I was sad. Yeah, that awkward kiss never happens. That FaceTime call doesn't happen. Bummed me out, but alright, moving on. So now we're at the point where it's been like a couple of weeks since Connor took his own life. So the memory of it is starting to fade away in the masses, and that's where the idea for the Connor Project starts up. Now in the show, Evan comes up with the idea of the Connor Project himself. This is a song called Disappear. Evan's subconscious comes to him in the form of a ghost of Connor Murphy. So really, Connor Murphy shows up in in his room. And he's like, no one deserves to be forgotten. Let's keep my memory alive. Let's start up the Connor Project. In the movie, however, the song Disappear is replaced by this whole segment with Alana with her original song called The Anonymous Ones. In this movie, it's Alana who comes up with the idea for the Connor Project. Because she's like, yeah, there are a lot of us who feel like we are alone in the world. When you see me, you see what I want you to see. The happy-go-lucky, sunshine and rainbows person who's just got nothing wrong. But, you know, deep down, I have a million problems. Now, her song, The Anonymous Ones, yeah, it's a pretty good song. It fits in with all the rest of the music in the show. Or the movie, I should say. Although it does get a little repetitive towards the end, where she goes, the parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. And then she goes, the parts they can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. And then she goes, the parts we can't tell, we carry them well. I'm like, alright, I get it. Can we move on from this line? It's still a good song, though. And I was actually impressed when I learned that Amanda Stenberg helped write it. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool. Getting towards the end of Act 1, the scene where Cynthia Murphy, Amy Adams, gives Evan the tie that Connor was supposed to have. Again, that's right out of the show. Like, yeah, it was bar mitzvah season, but Connor never got invited to a single party. I was like, oh man. That's the same as the show. And that will lead us right into You Will Be Found. Oh man, this is so great. Again, right out of the show, Evan's speech that he gives beforehand, where he's like, good morning students and faculty, and he's stuttering and messing up, and then he falls to the ground right out of the show. And then the piano cues up and the song starts and you're like, here we go. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. And from there, the song continues to make you weep. People start filming his speech from the audience, and next thing you know, it goes viral. This super positive message goes out, and that's where I start to tear up, because look at all those views. This burning bright sensation of a message going out and becoming viral. Everyone's seeing it. It's so beautiful. And eventually it gets to the point where Larry breaks down. He starts crying for the first time since his stepson died. And you're like, oh man, the waterworks are continuing to flow. Now in the show, when the song wraps up, and Evan and Zoe are talking, and Zoe goes, you've given me my brother back, she kisses him. And so they start kissing, and that's the end of Act 1 in the show. In the movie, it's a bit different. Again, there's no kiss there. Zoe just leans in for a hug, and so they hug each other. At that point, I was like, alright, what? Are Evan and Zoe just not gonna have romance in this movie? No, they are. It's just gonna come a bit later. So now starting Act 2, we get to the scene where Larry and Evan are talking, and Larry's showing Evan the baseball glove, and he's like, stiff as a board, isn't it? In the show, this is actually a song. It's called To Break in a Glove, which I'll be honest, I was never too attached to that song. So the fact that that song is omitted from the movie, I was totally fine with it, because I don't care for that song at all. I really don't. I found it funny that the scene was in the movie, just the song wasn't. I don't know why. Like, if you have the scene, might as well have the song, but I don't know. But the romance between Evan and Zoe starts with the song Only Us, which is a pretty sweet song. It's a nice love song. Zoe comes over to Evan's house and tells him that she likes him. And I was like, okay, so this is where the romance starts. Kind of sudden. It did feel kind of sudden here. So alright, now the two are in a relationship. They go to the prom together. Although the very end of that song where they keep going, the world falls away, the end of the song was actually made longer for the movie because they keep repeating that line, the world falls away, the world falls away. But it's actually showing how the world is falling away for them. They're only interested in each other now. They're neglecting everything else. They're missing Connor Project meetings. So you're like, okay, that's not great. Jared's looking at Evan like, you son of a bitch. But then pretty much the next scene is where Evan and Zoe, they go to the Murphy's house and Evan's mother Heidi is there. And you're like, oh no, this can't be good. And then I was like, well, that didn't last long for Evan, because this is where things start to go south for him. It's when the Murphys offer Connor's tuition money to Evan, and that is where Heidi snaps. She's like, oh my god, Evan, seriously with this shit? I think this is where the song Good For You would be in the movie, because I think that's where it is in the show. Because Evan's mom is like, wow, good for you. You have this fake family. What, I'm not enough for you? It's a good scene in the movie though, because Evan's like, it's not my fault if other people can provide for me. And you're like, oh... damn. And as if things couldn't get any worse, Alana, thinking she's doing good because she needs more money to meet the threshold for the fundraiser, after questioning Evan, he shows her that secret note, that suicide note, which was actually a letter he wrote to himself that was a sign from his therapist. Evan said, yeah, don't show it to anyone, but Alana's like, nope, I'm gonna do a reprise of my song, and I'm gonna post this online because we need the money. And you're like, oh no. Because now people see this note, and they're like, oh my god, Connor wrote a suicide note to Evan, but not his own family? Wow, his family must really suck. And so the Murphy family starts getting hate. Like, people are really starting to bag on them, and that's where Evan's like, alright, I gotta come clean, because they don't deserve all this hate. I'm the one who deserves it. So Evan comes clean to the Murphys. He reveals that he was lying the whole time. This is the song Words Fail. And again, this is the song where I'm like, alright, this is really slow. This is the downer of a song right here. He's sobbing like a baby. He's like, I never expected it to go this far. And of course, naturally, the Murphys get pissed. They're like, alright, it's time for you to go. Zoe leaves, and you're like, yeah, they're done. But then, a little later, the song goes on. Evan's by himself himself in the forest, and this is where the truth of his broken arm is revealed. You learn that the summer before this school year started, he was in a really bad place, mentally, and so he climbed to the top of that tree, and then he just decided to drop down. And yeah, that's how he broke his arm. You're like, holy shit, okay. Damn, Evan, you got it rough. And he confesses this to his mother, and man, this is such a sweet scene right here. This is one of the best scenes in the movie, if you ask me. This is the song So Big, So Small. And Julianne Moore, as Evan's mother Heidi, she crushes it in this movie, dude. Because the concept of this song is that she is Evan's mother. And she's like, my job is to love you no matter what, because you're my son. I am always going to believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. Because that is my job. Your mom isn't going anywhere. Your mom is staying right here. That is so impactful, man. That's another tear-worthy scene right there, let me tell ya. Like, honestly, if it were up to me, I would consider Julianne Moore for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for this movie because of that scene. I'm just saying. It's probably not gonna happen, but I'm just me. So now Evan decides to come clean to the world. He posts a video of him confessing on Instagram. And this is the thing about the end of Dear Evan Hansen, is that he's not redeemed, he's not forgiven by anyone, and he shouldn't be because he did a bad thing. As honorable as his intentions were, Evan did a pretty dick thing. Let's just be honest with ourselves and admit it. He lied in the face of God and everyone. He pretty much gave them false hope. So yeah, he should not be redeemed or forgiven. And he's not. And in this movie, he's not. No one in this movie says, oh, I forgive you. Well, except for his mother, but that's his mother's job. So it's fine. But yeah, the Murphys never forgive him. His classmates never forgive him. Jared, Alana, they never forgive him. Evan apologizes. That's different. He learns his lesson. That's the point of the story. Well, one of the points anyway. He's like, yup, I fucked up. And so he ends up doing what he should have done in the first place is he learns about Connor, what he liked, what books he liked to read, and he reads those books himself. And you're like, oh, okay, Evan, good for you, you're learning. And this scene concludes with Connor's new original song called A Little Closer. Yes, this is original song number 2 for the movie. The song was not in the show. And it's Connor in this recovery center playing an original song that he wrote on his guitar. Today. It's a sweet song, yeah. And so he sends that video he receives to the Murphys, to Alana, to Jared, as his little apology to everyone. But again, none of the characters are like, I forgive you. Even at the very end where Evan and Zoe are talking, Evan's like, yeah, what I did, it was a terrible thing, it was the worst thing anyone could do. And Zoe's like, yep. Yeah, it was. She doesn't forgive him right there, as she shouldn't. And so the movie wraps up more or less like the show does. Zoe's going back to school, Evan's taking some classes at the community college, and he writes another letter to himself. Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be a great day, and here's why. Because today, you're you, and that's enough. He learns to accept himself for who he is, and I think that's great. Now, in the show, the finale is a short reprise of the song For Forever. All I see is sky. For forever. But in the movie, instead, it's a short reprise of A Little Closer. Today, it feels a little closer. Which, alright, that's nice. But the very last shot, yeah, I know, I'm talking about the last shot in the movie, but the last shot actually symbolizes that line from For Forever, because it's looking out over the fields and all you see is sky for forever. It stretches on, and you're like, this is beautiful. And yeah, I thought that was a great way to end the movie. And thus ends what is, to me anyway, one of the most underrated movies of 2021. So in conclusion, I guess Dear Evan Hansen is a testament to why I'm not a professional movie critic. I'm just a guy who likes to talk about movies, and I like to give my thoughts on movies. And if I like a movie that most people don't, or at least most professionals don't, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone I've actually talked to in real life who's seen this movie, they liked it too. So I guess that does go to show that opinions are subjective. I love this movie. I want to watch it again. I've seen it twice now and I still want to watch it again. I want to watch it a third time. And still, Dear Evan Hansen is nowhere near my favorite Broadway show of all time. There are plenty of shows I love a lot more than this one. Like West Side Story, like Les Miserables, like Hamilton, and of course, Wicked. But you know what? We now have our movie adaptation of Dear Evan Hansen, and I am just fine with that. So now that Dear Evan Hansen is out, have you seen it? What do you think about it? And what's your favorite song on the soundtrack, movie or show, or both? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.